Tomorrow is the 16th of November 2020 and it's the day that the window opens for roster moves in League of Legends. So today, on the last day before some of those rumors out there start to get confirmed, I wanted to take the last chance to squeeze in a video talking about the up and coming roster, moves and offseason for two teams that I think represent two sides of the same coin. It's TSM from North America and MAD Lions from Europe. It's the same coin for both of these teams because both teams were relatively successful domestically. TSM obviously winning the NALCS summer split and MAD Lions performing really well in the summer split as well, holding down the first place in the regular season for some portion of that regular split, and then finishing fourth in the playoffs, going to Worlds. Just the qualification is a success for this rookie roster. But then both teams fall flat at the World Championship. MAD Lions obviously failed to even make it out of the play-in stage, and TSM kind of embarrassing themselves, going 0-6 in the group stage of Worlds. But even with this same starting spot of domestic success and failure at Worlds, I think for the offseason, I see these two teams at opposite ends of the spectrum. So let's talk about why. And let's start with TSM running down their roster. In the top lane, TSM have Broken Blade. He has played for them for 2 years now, since they brought him in from Turkey with a lot of hype behind him. And he's kind of worked out. He's definitely a good player. He has shown good performances, but I don't think he's lived up to the hype that he had when he came into TSM. And I don't think he's a world-class top laner. He's not going to be your guarantee for having the number 1 or number 2 top laner in LCS. He's not going to be guaranteeing you to have a strong top lane at Worlds competition. And so if we talk about TSM in that context, I think he's a little bit subpar. And I also don't expect a lot of growth from him from here on out. I think we've seen him for 2 years now in a top-level team, debatable maybe, with different teammates. You know, over his time, I think he had like 3, maybe 4, I think 4 different junglers at least. He had different bottom lanes in the time. TSM played towards him a lot of the times, and I don't think he has proven himself to be a good enough carry for that investment of resources of TSM. And he's also not proven to be a stable rock in the top lane where you can consistently play away from him and he still provides impact like Impact would. He's like the stereotypical rock in the top lane for me. You don't see him getting a lot of resources, but Impact still, over the last couple of years, was always able to provide value for Team Liquid. So just starting off in the top lane, I would love to see changes for TSM because Broken Blade, as I said, hasn't proven himself to be a great carry when you invest in him. Hasn't been able to prove that he's a great rock if you don't invest in him. And I also don't see a lot of growth in the future for him. The jungle position is the piece for TSM that I like the most right now. It's Speaker. And on the one hand, I think he's been performing pretty well. He's basically given TSM everything they could have asked for from such a young player. And crucially, I think he has responded really well to a shitty position that TSM put him in. In 2019 summer, TSM had this weird rotation with Acadian and Grig, and then just for the playoffs, they put in Speaker, they bombed out, completely failed, and that's not how you set a young player up for success. That's how you fuck over a young player. And then they brought in Dardoch for the spring split. In 2020, they removed Speaker from the starting lineup again, only to bring him back for summer then, give him the starting spot. Not a good situation for a young player, a rookie, but Speaker handled it like a pro and put in a performance that is respectable in my opinion. Is he the best jungler in NA? No, but this was like his first split in pro play. He now has half a year of experience, and so that's like a stage where I can still expect growth in the future. So he has shown a respectable performance in his rookie split. There's still growth to be expected in his future. Definitely a piece worth keeping in my opinion. Then we come to mid and bottom lane. Bjergsen and Doublelift. You can't go more veteran than that. These two players have been playing since forever. They have won the LCS more times than you can count. They have done it on not different teams per se. Bjergsen has been on TSM obviously his entire time, but the team has changed so much around him that he has shown he can win championships with different teammates in different metas. And Doublelift obviously has proven that to maybe even more of an extent. He has won the NALCS in multiple teams with multiple different teammates. But both of them have also proven that they're not going to take you far in international competition. I think there was 1 year when they made it out of groups at Worlds, out of like 5 years that they went there. So both of them very much proven quantities and basically proven to be ineffective at international competitions. So if you want to build a team that is successful internationally, I think you need to get rid of both of them. Bjergsen already, I don't know if it really was his decision to step down, but he's not an active player anymore. I do hope that TSM gets rid of Doublelift as well. I think there's like 3 scenarios where you don't want to let go of a player. Either he's playing really well right now, that's not the case for Doublelift, or second, there's a lot of growth in their future. I don't see that for Doublelift. He's been playing for 10 years. Where's that growth going to come from now? And the third is where you don't want to give over an important piece to a rival where they could suddenly get twice as good, and then you're just sitting around thinking like, well, fuck, I just created my worst enemy. I don't think that's going to happen with Doublelift either. He talked about how motivated he was to show Liquid up after he was kicked from Team Liquid after Spring. He kind of did it. They won LCS, but then again, at the end of the year, I would still say Team Liquid was the better team than TSM. They were able to take teams to take a game of every team in their group. G2, Suning, like finalists and semi-finalists of Worlds. TSM wasn't even able to take games of teams like LGD. So yeah, for me, definitely get rid of Doublelift as well. And the supports, we saw Biofrost and Treats in the LCS. I'm not convinced by either. I think both are middle of the pack at most. Nothing above average that I've seen. I haven't seen all of their games, but what I've seen hasn't impressed me. And Doublelift, he's also Biofrost is also a very known commodity. He's played for TSM in the past. Then he went elsewhere. Now he came back. I don't think he's gonna improve and be a 6 support next year. I think we've kind of seen what he can bring to the table. And with Treats, I'm a little bit, I don't know as much about him, but I know that he's been playing in NA Academy and even in European teams for a while now. And so I think he should have had most of the opportunities to show himself, and apparently hasn't done so. So for TSM, maybe keep Broken Blade if you really believe in him. Definitely keep Spica and just remove the rest of the team. Get a new mid and bot side. And just because they have proven that they won't take you to international success, and while they can sometimes do it domestically, they're also not going to do it. You're not going to build a dynasty like Team Liquid, back-to-back champions. You're kind of going to shake yourself to a championship through the lower bracket like they did this summer, but I don't think those should be the aspirations for a team like TSM. Then we go over to MAD Lions, and they are basically the polar opposite to what I've said about TSM right now. TSM have like Bjergsen and Doublelift. It doesn't get more veteran than that. you don't get more rookie than MAD Lions. They brought in 4 new players from the European regional leagues at the start of this season. Orome in the top lane, Shadow in jungle, Karzi in ADC, and Kaiser as a support. And the one player they retained from the Splice organization from 2019 was Humanoid, and 2019 was his rookie season. So you have Broken Blade, who's almost like he's the second least experienced player on TSM. That's the most experienced player on MAD Lions. So you have a team with 4 rookies that performed well in spring and summer, fell flat at the World Championship, but you know what? That's an experience in itself. I think for MAD Lions, it's much more about people management this offseason, about ego management, about trying to keep this team together so that the egos for the players can still work together, so that these players can still work together next season, so that they can accept this loss at the World Championship this year and grow from it. Because that's the thing. As I said for Spica, he's had half a year in pro play right now. Of course he can still grow. And the same goes for most of the players on MAD Lions. The only one I think who has proven kind of where he's going to be is Humanoid. I think he's proven that he's kind of a tier below like the beast mid laners like Caps. Don't expect him to play on that level, but I think he has proven that his ceiling is pretty high, his floor is pretty high as well. So he's not the most consistent, but he's pretty consistent, and even when he's off his game, he's still going to provide value for you. And then around him, I think all other 4 players can grow, and crucially, I think the team can grow together. Because I think for MAD Lions, one of their biggest failures this year was to insist on the narrative that Orome, he can play carries. Of course he can play carries. We just put him on tanks and bruisers in the spring season to kind of form the team, bring 5 new players together, have an easy structure where it's like very laid out. Orome plays without resources, and we put that towards Humanoid and Karzi instead. The team performed very well in spring with that approach, forming or trying to use Orome like the rock in the top lane and trying to play through the other 2 lanes. And then in summer, listen, I get it. You want to try out. You want to try to broaden your horizon, enlarge your portfolio of ways you can play and win the game. But we saw that they kind of fell apart doing that. When they started to put Orome on the Camille, for example, as well, they had like 3 carry lanes, and then they also hit like an unlucky spot with the meta where Shadow's playstyle kind of fell out of the meta. He's not the big Nidalee, Graves, Kindred, Lilia player. He's like the Lee Sin, or maybe even the facilitative style, or just early game skirmish champions like the Set that he hasn't played a lot, because he's mostly played the Lee Sin, let's be honest. But I think that's a champion who would fit him way more than like a Nidalee or a Lilia. So for MAD Lions, a lot of stuff came together. I think that they can learn from going into next year. If they replace someone, I would advocate for Shadow, because I think he has shown that just the drop-off from his Lee Sin to every other champion is huge. So first of all, when the meta shifts away from the Lee Sin, it's going to be a huge nerf to your team. When any opposing team decides to just ban out the Lee Sin straight away, that's a huge nerf to your team. And so I think he's like just an obvious weakness where maybe you can find another jungler that's just a little bit more well-rounded. And listen, if you want to go crazy, sure, I would not be mad if they got, so we know that Alfari is going to NA, but if they got Alfari or even Odowane over Orome, I wouldn't be mad about that. But I'm also a huge advocate of giving pro players a second year. I think your first year, your rookie year, you need to prove yourself. Sure, if you're just shit outright, there's no reason to give you a second year, but I think MAD Lions have shown enough, and every player on MAD Lions has shown enough that they deserve a second year, an off season to grow as a team and as individuals. And I think the same also goes for the coaching staff. I think they should learn from this year that you don't have to be able to play every single style in the book. If you find a way for your team to consistently win games, you hone that, you focus in on that. That's your style. It's like the Yamato speech from, I don't even know when it's from, but some World Championship, I think. Might have even been 2019 with Vitality, where he said, don't just try to play like everyone else, make your own style. And that's also the thing that goes for MAD Lions. I think they could have been very successful with tanks and bruises in the top lane. Just focus on your style. Don't try to go where all the other teams are going. And I think that's kind of on the coaching staff as well. They need to learn from this year and to learn this lesson that you don't have to be able to play the best style of League of Legends, because if you try the best style, obviously quotation marks, because if you always just try to play what's meta right now, that's not always going to fit your team. You're going to be way better if you figure out what you have, what personnel you have, what strengths and weaknesses your personnel has, and then try to formulate win conditions for those players. You don't have perfect players in every role that can play every meta, and the sooner you accept that, the better for your team. So, as closing remarks, for TSM, not a lot of growth, very, very much known quantities that don't bring you the success, that are like a proven quantity that has proven they won't bring you the result that you want. You gotta replace that. On the other hand, MAD Lions with the most growth possible, I think. 4 rookies coming into this year. Give them another year. Give them a chance to grow as a team and as individuals. And so even though TSM and MAD Lions come into this offseason with a very similar situation of domestic success, embarrassment and failure at the Worlds, I think the decision about their rosters should be as different as they come. 3 or 4 roster changes on TSM, and basically I would keep the entire MAD Lions roster together, see what that team can do in 2021, especially with the huge changes again by Riot. Maybe these players can show much more next year. I would hope so. And so if you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe, really means a lot. And feel free to discuss any of what I said in the comments, on Twitter, hit me up at esportsidaho. And as always, thanks for watching.